the desert of the real.
Welcome to the Desert of the Real. I am your host, Ryan Hudson, and joined with me is your co-host, the man with the hat,
Jason Dietz.
Did you know that was a tagline for Indiana Jones?
The man with the hat?
Yeah, at least for the third one, it's the man with the hat is back. And it's like, oh, is that what he's known as?
My hat that I have is because of this movie.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, Indiana Jones is in me.
I would imagine this movie inspired one or two people to buy a fedora.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's not a fedora, but
it's still a cool hat, though.
it is a cool hat.
The Desert of the Real is a movie podcast where I forced Jason to watch big blockbuster movies he's refused to watch because he didn't think they were worth his time. We are now starting
Season 4.
Season 4, Indiana Jones. And you have seen most of these.
I've seen 4 of the 5 of them, yep.
So it's not like you refuse to watch these. However, you have hinted that, like, you hinted to me before recording that there may be a few criticisms you have.
Yeah. I've never watched any of these films since my birth as a critical thinker.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it still works. It still applies.
Yeah, it's going to be a sad experience,
No.
I think. For me and my childhood self.
We are two English language arts high school teachers with graduate degrees, and we attempt to use our academic training to dig deeply into movies. We explore the creativity, philosophy, film studies, and ethics in our film, and push you, the listener, to think critically about your entertainment.
Yeah. We're so grateful that you're still listening. 4 seasons in, and a bunch of, my choices in.
Yeah.
I wonder how many episodes we have at this point.
Of your choice?
Of just episodes.
Yeah, I don't know.
That you all have been with us. It's got to be approaching 100, I bet.
I don't know. There was a lot of Marvel.
So, we're just recognize the commitment that it takes to listen to these 2 high school English teachers ramble on and on. So we appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, and if you listened to last week's episode of The Game, we're doubling down and about encouraging critical thinking.
Yes.
We think the world is not falling apart, but falling apart, and critical thinking is what
only way to save it.
What could save it. But we're doing Indiana Jones.
Yep.
All the way back, 1981. Were you even born?
Yes.
When did you first see Indiana Jones? Or
remember.
It's not even Indiana Jones. It's Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's retroactively gone back and been renamed Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, really?
Which is dumb.
That is dumb.
But true fans know this one's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
When did I first see this? I honestly couldn't tell you. It has been, like Star Wars, it has been a part of me ever since I can remember. I remember playing Indiana Jones with my friends in early elementary school.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I it's similar for me, but because we owned the VHSs, except not for Temple of Doom.
Yeah, I didn't see Temple of Doom until I was an adult.
Yeah, we're kind of similar that way because my parents both did not like Temple of Doom. I didn't see it till I was in high school or something. Yeah. But this one and Last Crusade, similar to Star Wars, they were mixed together in my mind for the first part.
I didn't see The Last Crusade until I was adult either, but that might have been because it wasn't released until... When was The Last Crusade?
Well, let me look at the book I have right here in my lap.
But 81, I was 6 years old, so I remember when my dad and mom took out a loan to get a VCR, which
really?
At that point cost like $1,500.
Really?
And it came with a year's subscription to the local VHS store.
Nice.
And so I have
80s were awesome.
Yeah. So I have a lot of love for the 70s and 80s Disney like live action movies.
Yeah.
That's essentially all we watched.
We could do a series of Disney live action.
I would love that.
That'd be fun.
But Raiders was one that we got again. So I watched it multiple times as a kid. So I have a lot of love for Raiders.
Yeah.
As a kid.
So Last Crusade was 89.
Oh, so I was still a kid.
I think...
But I remember when that came out, my aunt, who I had never met before, because my dad grew up on the East Coast, came out and we were taking her around, and I remember going to Burger King and they had the Last Crusade cups and whatever, all that crap.
So I'm excited to do Steven Spielberg. Spielberg, I think, is the best of all time.
Yeah.
I think even his bad movies, there's something about how he makes them. It's undeniable. Like, Indiana Jones 4 famously gets ragged on, but I think when we get there, we'll be able to appreciate the fact that Steven Spielberg knows how to direct a movie.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to revisit that. I haven't seen that one in a while.
I've only seen it once.
Yeah, so
I don't know if he's the best. I would put Hitchcock as number one, but I wouldn't have any issues with either of those two being number one. Spielberg is amazing.
Yeah, but we wouldn't even get Spielberg without Hitchcock. So
right, that's why I would say.
Yeah, well,
it's like the dumb argument
fair.
about Jordan or LeBron. There is no LeBron without Michael Jordan. So what is the point of the argument? Anyhow.
Okay, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders.
It would not have come to be without a few things. One thing was specifically the movie that came before it. Spielberg's first and rare bomb. Have you seen 1941? I just watched it for the first time like a couple weeks ago. Like I had never seen it.
I don't think it's terrible.
Here's the thing. Well, let's go back even further before that. There's a movie called The Fabelmans. Did you see that?
No.
He made a movie about himself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's about him getting into film and like his like teenage years. Basically, his parents get divorced.
That's not narcissistic at all.
I think it's the opposite. When you watch it, it's like, no, this is open and honest. It's
really?
not.
Okay.
Okay, you're just.
I've never seen. I didn't even know it existed until 30 seconds.
That's fair. But early on, he was interested in cameras as a young teenager. He famously like got on the Universal lot as a teenager. Kind of gave himself a job by just being there.
Huh.
So he directed some TV. Like he directed the first episode of Columbo and stuff, and then he made a couple short films. His first movie is a TV movie called Duel, 1971. I have not seen Duel.
I have seen it. It's
about a guy who cuts off a big
long
truck, and the truck is after him. You don't see the driver. It's just...
It would have been much more effective as a short film.
Oh, really?
Like as a feature length, it kind of wears thin. But, I mean, it's definitely enjoyable.
After Duel is another Spielberg I haven't seen, but it's also not super well. It's the Sugarland Express. It's super low budget. It's got Goldie Hawn. I actually don't even know what the story is. I think they're on the run or something. But even though it's not super well known, not super seen, it's still like was an important step to get him to direct Jaws, which is the beginning of it all. In a real sense. Jaws, the first blockbuster. People were lined up around the block for Jaws. Yeah. It was famously shot way over budget, over shooting days, like 100 days over, all these things. It was a disaster. He says in this book I'm looking at here where he was just like a young guy with like pimples still, and all the crew were like judging him, and nothing was working. But success, Jaws worked out. And because it worked out, he was able to do whatever he wanted in a real way. He gets a blank check, basically. And he does Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So now he's trying to, in a way, prove that he can be, not just explosion stuff.
Right.
He goes into a little personal stories. His parents got divorced, and it's about a dad leaving his family. And I think that a lot of that is based on that notion.
That's Richard Dreyfuss also, right?
Yeah, Richard Dreyfuss. But Close Encounters is also massively successful.
Yeah. It's a pretty amazing film.
It's pretty good. And then we get to 1941. Not the year, the movie 1941, which we just said I watched for the first time. I was surprised of how funny I thought it was.
I did too.
Not belly laugh funny, but, clever. A lot of things explode. In this book, he says something to the effect of, he replaced all the funny parts with loud noises. I think that's kind of fair. There's also some problematic stuff in there culturally, which is unfortunate.
Yes,
you also have like John Belushi, like barely doing anything. He's like well known.
Flies around, blows crap up.
Right, that's most of the movie. Like, there's not even really a main character.
Right.
It's just people doing stuff loosely based on a few real life things that happen, like a submarine scene off the coast of California.
And you have a Ferris wheel rolling down the...
Yeah.
Like, how can you go wrong with the Ferris wheel rolling down the dock?
Right. Actually, but like in all honesty, there is some miniature work here of planes flying over LA that looks incredible. Yeah. It's all miniature, but like, and you know it's a miniature, but to me, I'm like, I don't even care. Look how cool this looks, and how good. But Spielberg famously was in charge of every single shot. So this movie taught him an important lesson to have basically a B unit, which most movies have, like a secondary unit. Go film these things that I don't have to necessarily be in charge of. Right. And in fact, in The Hobbit, the guy who was in charge of the B unit was Andy Serkis, who plays Gollum. Oh, wow. And Andy Serkis has gone to direct a few things. He's directing Animal Farm. We'll see how that goes when it comes out, because it looks maybe...
It'll be awesome if it has Gollum in it. That's what I'm saying.
Pigs.
He's just going to show up in the background.
So, Spielberg, because he's coming off of not just a commercial bomb, but a critical bomb, people did not like it at the time. Yeah. He kind of doubles down, and it's like, let me go back and make like a movie that won't fail. And because of the failure, Raiders was a step up.
Oh yeah.
Because 41 was also super expensive, and also like studios were not excited about this. In fact, multiple people the entire time, it's like, I don't think this is gonna work. But you're Spielberg, you gave us Jaws, so maybe like. In fact, John Wayne was offered a role in 1941 and said, you should not make this movie. But John Wayne, like, because it's kind of making fun of World War II in a way that is kind of crazy that it was made. Right. Because obviously this is also a World War II movie in a way, and Spielberg will go back and later make like Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List, and other things. So
to redeem himself from 1941.
Kind of. I don't think 41 is not necessarily not worth your time. It's just, if it's at the bottom of your Spielberg rankings, it's not
surprising.
Not surprising. Okay, do you know what Spielberg wanted to make and was told no? That was also
Star Wars.
No, but that's kind of important stuff, because George Lucas is like right there to make these 4 movies. I don't think he does the 5th one. Spielberg doesn't also make it, but he's producing it. Anyway, there's a famous story that this book talks about. Spielberg and George Lucas are on the beach in Hawaii because Lucas wanted to get away from opening day of Star Wars because he was worried about it bombing. Right. And on this day, and like Spielberg also was like, no, Star Wars is going to be not only successful, I trust it so much, I'll own like this percentage of it. He owns a tiny amount. That tiny amount is very lucrative.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And that goes directly into Spielberg. So imagine what George Lucas got out of all of that. Anyway, so they're on the beach waiting to hear the good news for Star Wars. They talk about how he got denied directing James Bond. Oh. Maybe because he's American or whatever, but he wanted to direct a Bond film. Wow. So this is what the critic says about. Frankly, it's hard to see why. The Bond pictures are essentially soulless. Right. Do you like that?
I agree.
All action and no substance. Lots of spectacular action sequences, some cynical and repetitive dialogue, making them little more than machine-made money spinning enterprises. Dietz is nodding in approval.
I agree completely.
It perhaps speaks to Spielberg's youth. He was just turning 30 in 1977. That he did not fully understand where his greatest strengths lay. So this guy's saying, oh, it's a good thing you didn't direct Bond. Yeah. At some point later in their Hawaiian stay, he said to Spielberg, I've got something better than James Bond. It's called Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so, because he was denied it, like, you know what? We'll make our own guy, and it's better anyway. Yeah. He was called Indiana Smith. originally, but then it got changed eventually to Jones, which it's hard to even imagine anything else. But they were like, let's work on it together. And it's basically George Lucas's idea. Because of that bomb in 1941, so he grew as a person. He's allowing, like, George Lucas to collaborate. They're working together for the first time. And, magic was made.
Yeah.
I think it's not out of the question to say this movie single-handedly elevated action movies.
Yeah.
Like our expectations for action movies.
Yeah.
I saw a list once that said arguably Die Hard was another one that, like, no, now the bar's up here. 1999, we got The Matrix up here.
Right.
The list I saw ended with Mad Max Fury Road. Like, this is what our action movies can be like, way up here.
Yeah.
But you watch this. The action's incredible. Like, it's still okay, he's giving me a face, but the action's entertaining.
You're right. It is.
It's
you are absolutely
still pretty
right.
good edge of your seat stuff.
It is.
What do you think of Raiders of the Lost Ark, Dr. Deeds?
So this is going to be an interesting ride for me because, like I said, I have to separate the nostalgia or the love of from the critical examination of. So, love of, there's nothing wrong with this movie at all.
Yeah.
This is I think you texted, I think this is a perfect movie.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, maybe the best movie ever made, maybe?
Right. From the love of film, the love of what this was for me, for, the industry, for action movies. Yeah. This is a pretty amazing movie. But being true to myself that I am now as a critical thinker, this is a pretty flawed film.
I'm going to imagine most of our audience is like, Indiana Jones, good.
And I'm with
well, at least this one.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I know.
It's one of the most iconic characters. There are scenes in this film that everybody knows. Everybody has seen. It's a part of everyone. And so I guess let's approach it like this. From a logical standpoint, a lot of this movie doesn't make sense at all.
Are you going to throw...
And I'm just going to say that.
Okay, are you familiar with... There's in an episode of The Big Bang Theory. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've never seen The Big Bang Theory.
There's an episode where they're talking about this movie and they say... one of them points out, if you think about it, Indy doesn't affect anything. The Nazis still would have found the Ark. The Ark would have been opened, and they all would have died the same way.
True.
No, that's a dumb argument.
Well, that's not my argument.
I know, but I was wondering if that's what you were going to say.
Not at all.
Let me just address those claims, because some people are like, wait a second, that's true. No. For one thing, Indy does affect the body. Marion would have died if he wasn't there. The Nazis would have killed her.
No one would have known where the amulet was without Indy going to see her.
Oh, I thought, wait, the Nazis arrive at the same place.
Did they?
I don't know if it's implied that they followed him.
It kind of is, because he says something like, I hope for your sake that he has not yet acquired it.
I think, fine. Without Indy, they wouldn't have connected Marion to the thing.
Yeah, she would have died.
While the Nazis' experiment with the Ark would have ended in disaster if Dr. Jones wasn't involved, only the Nazis would have known the Ark's location, and eventually they would have recovered it. So, arguing that without Indy, the Nazis still would have gotten the Ark in the end, even if they all died opening it the first time. Yeah. The point is, that argument specifically, not whatever Dietz is about to throw at us, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. Indy needed to be there. He is an active character in that story.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I feel like you should address your qualms.
Well, just the logic of basically everything that happens in the movie.
Like?
Okay. Well, I've kind of separated it into two main chunks.
Okay.
Like the I'm gonna call the first chunk the serendipitous event chunk, which I guess most movies have to have, just the right place, right time, or the right, accidental bumping of the gear by the knee that shifts the thing, the whatever. I'm not really going to address that. whatever. It's a standard action movie thing that those kind of things have to happen. Great. What I noticed this viewing that I had never noticed before is, so, like, from an archaeological standpoint, kind of the absurdity of everything. So we can look at the opening scene, right?
Yeah.
So we have this gold idol, right, which is in this cave with all the booby traps and whatever. Why?
What do you mean, why?
If it was super important, why would this culture put this idol in a place where no one could ever see it or get to it?
I feel like that's not unreasonable to think excuses for.
Please.
Because, I don't know, when Belloc holds it up, everyone bows and starts to worship it.
Right.
Maybe it's so sacred to them, they don't want anyone to touch it. So let's put it...
Or see it, or ever
Right.
interact with it, or even know that it exists.
Yeah.
No. Okay, great. Whatever.
Okay.
And then we move to Tanis, which is great. Tanis is a city, whatever. Why would they have a map room?
Oh, like...
Why would they have a headpiece that reveals the location of the Ark?
So now, I feel
wouldn't.
like you're now...
This is logic.
No, I think you're arguing about the genre.
No, this is
Adventure
logic.
films.
If we're going to assume that this is an actual archaeological experience, it doesn't make sense. Why would they have a map room? Why would they have it? They wouldn't. They would have a group of people that knew where it was, and that's it. They wouldn't have any secret revelatory anything. Whatever. Great. So then we find the room where the Ark is in it, and it's full of snakes. How is it still full of snakes?
Oh my.
The snakes aren't... What are they eating for thousands of years?
I don't know, whatever
Nothing.
snakes eat.
No.
Maybe
that's silly.
maybe there's a lot of rats off screen, okay, Pete?
Great. Whatever. There's a lot of rats off screen.
Okay.
And the snakes are coming through this wall. What's literally on the other side of the wall? The outside. How is that possible? It's not. This is absurd. So the whole snake scene, the whole finding of the Ark thing, it makes no logical sense whatsoever. And I'm going back to, I love this movie.
Okay.
This has a special place in my heart, but the two main, most famous components of this movie are both ridiculous from a logical standpoint.
Okay.
They would not do that. I think those are my two main issues. So the first one doesn't make that big of a difference because it's just our introduction, which is probably, in my opinion, one of the best expositions ever filmed.
Oh yeah, actually I have that in my notes too.
It is the textbook for showing, not telling.
Like when the two guys come?
Just everything.
Yeah.
When he's going after the idol, everything is perfect. We're not told anything.
Yeah.
We know by the end of that, I don't know, what is it, 10 minutes or whatever, we know everything we need to know about Indiana Jones. We haven't been told a thing.
You don't even see his face at first until he steps into the Spielberg, the light in your eyes shot.
So it's magnificent in terms of film. In terms of logic, it's not. So we have the Hutu people, right, who are really good marksmen until they need not to be really good marksmen. And then they're not. He's not that far away, and they're shooting with a bow and an arrow. He's only, 25, 30 feet out into the river, and they can't, no.
Oh,
anyhow.
my.
And I admit,
Yeah.
I'm of two minds of this.
Yeah.
You're
Schrodinger's cat.
I am Schrodinger's cat.
Okay, what's funny is he's wearing a Schrodinger's cat right now that says dead and alive at the same time.
I am, because on the one, I remember as a kid being like, yeah, get away, run. And then as an adult, as a critical thinker, so I'm going to lump all of my complaints into I don't like action movies for that same reason that I just complained about. Action movies on the whole are not logical. They don't make sense. However, specifically with this movie, the whole idea of the hunt for the artifact doesn't make sense.
What do you mean?
Logically. like I said, like if you are the Egyptians and if you have stolen this most important of all artifacts,
Yeah.
you're not going to create a map. You're not going to create a or you might create a map. You're not going to build a whole frickin' room with a stick and the light and the
This
thing.
is like
We're not going to do that.
This is like saying I hate in mysteries when they follow clues and
They would not have done that.
I don't know. I guess, but this is how all action adventure movies.
I know.
are.
This is why I don't like action adventure movies.
Okay, so
that's basically my entire complaint, other than the little nitpicks here and there.
You're all right. Well, I just watched a brand new movie that came out just weeks ago or something. It's called The Fountain of Youth. It's on Apple Plus, and it's directed by Guy Ritchie, who has made great stuff before. But it's like, what if Indiana Jones wasn't that interesting? And like all of the things are there. They're finding clues. They're running away from bad guys. Or it's
not getting shot.
It's like a better Uncharted movie than the Uncharted movie, because I like the games. And that's all the stuff you're complaining about. But it's also like, I think I already forgot about this movie and it just ended type of thing. It's like you watch that and then you watch Raiders and you're like, this is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where I'm coming from.
And like.
Yeah.
Again,
so all right.
Two minds. The Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah, right.
Because I recognize the awesomeness of Raiders. There's no.
I wonder though, can a person truly appreciate a genre film where the things in the genre don't make sense? Like rom-coms, they're going to get together, break up, and get back together.
Right.
Adventure films, that these things are going to happen. Can you ever enjoy an action movie?
Well, I think enjoying is different from intellectually engaging with.
Okay.
I 100%, like this is, I don't even know, probably the 24th time I've watched Raiders. Yeah. I still enjoyed watching this movie. As a like a piece of art that I love, yeah, this is a 5-star movie. As a logically flawed, it's not nearly as logically flawed as a lot of the movies that we've seen.
I would imagine Temple of Doom is way more flawed.
Maybe. I've only ever seen Temple of Doom once, and I didn't really care for it the one time, but
it'll be fun next week.
Yeah, logically, there's not a whole lot of even logical issues with this movie.
Uh-huh.
Just basically it's just that map room. And then the drive with the truck is not that logical.
What are you talking about? Name one thing.
When he's getting... Well, there's one horse in Egypt, apparently. And it happened to be in the tent that he went to. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine.
Cliffs that appear randomly.
Right. They're driving across the Sahara Desert.
And then there's
Guess how many cliffs there are in the Sahara Desert? Zero, because it's all a sand.
Belloc even says
and
to Marion...
Just,
it's nothing but desert for 3 weeks.
3 weeks in every direction.
Wait a second.
Anyhow, I wasn't even going to bring that up.
That's just the thing.
Okay, but if you're driving the truck,
yeah,
and you've wrested it from the Nazis,
yeah,
you're not going to keep driving the truck the same direction. You're going to go away from the Nazis.
He had a plan. He had to get it.
He didn't. He's making it up as he goes. He didn't have a plan. Anyhow,
all the people had to cover it up.
Anyhow,
somehow they knew to do that.
Right. But at the same time, that is like one of the most memorable scenes in cinema is him fighting off these dozens and dozens of Nazis, and he does some of them this way and that way. Yeah. I remember watching that. I remember him, the guy that gets driven over the top of.
Yeah.
Like that's visceral in me. And so I don't know. This was a hard one for me to deal with.
Okay, this is a tangent, but the Uncharted movies are literally inspired by these games. In fact, when the third one came out, Harrison Ford, they invited him to come play it to help advertise the games. Because they're similar. A guy's after a thing, and people are after him. People complain about the game, like, oh, Nathan Drake kills a lot of people.
Yeah, he does.
But he's also still, like, positive and chipper, you know? It doesn't make sense. In fact, there's a trophy you get, and this is how I learned about it, in Uncharted 4. When you kill a certain amount of bad guys, you get a little trophy called ludonarrative dissonance.
What does that mean?
Well, let me tell you, Deets. Ludo, meaning game, narrative, so the game's narrative, dissonance. Like, it's not connected. It's not syncing there. Meaning they gave you a trophy because of this criticism, where Drake would be like a psychopath if he was still happy and positive after killing hundreds of bad guys. Yeah. I think this movie, I mean, we have 4 movies to go, but I think Indy still functions as a human being, because he basically only kills Nazis.
So he only kills the other, so that's okay.
He kills the people with the evil.
See, but okay, so philosophically, that's something I wanted us to deal with, is the value of life, or lives. So famously, we have the Nazis as this block of humanity that is generally considered as evil.
Yeah.
But inside that block of humanity are individual people.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and it's the same with racism. It's the same with any blocking of people. Yeah. It's a flawed blocking. So the people that he's chucking off trucks and running over and whatever, those are somebody's kids.
I mean, they're
not
fair.
Maybe even there because they're like, yes, I believe in the Third Reich and whatever. They're there because if they're not there, they're in jail or they've been shot or whatever, because they wouldn't. Anyhow, so he's just killing Nazis, I don't think works.
I mean, I wonder, though, because he does kill a lot of people in this entire franchise.
Yes, he does.
So would he not be? Is it the same thing as what I was saying, Uncharted? Does it not connect with the
narrative dissonance?
This would just be narrative dissonance, or whatever the Greek word for movie is. Probably just narrative dissonance.
Yeah.
Ludo's what.
Well, but game. I mean, I've never played Uncharted. I watched my kid play it for like 5 minutes. I'm like, you're not going to play this anymore because he's literally just blood, death, blood. I'm like, how is this a T-rated game? Anyhow, Indiana Jones isn't unscarred.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of demons. He's got a lot of like darkness in him. So I don't know that he's just going through happily and whatever. Yeah. But he is a very driven character. Mm-hmm. Like, he's a single focus character, which is interesting, given everything that he has to deal with to achieve his focus. So I don't know. He kills a lot of people.
He does. So this movie, Spielberg wanted to make an action movie with, quote, like, only the good parts. Because he grew up on things like Flash Gordon, Don Winslow of the Navy, which I don't know anything about, but that's what the book also mentions. So this is what here. I'll go back to the book here. In a way, Raiders is a perfect action film, a headlong series of incidents that does not pause to dither over plausibility.
Yes.
Lucas, as he had already proven in Star Wars, had always loved the serials in the 1930s and 40s. And Spielberg was at least knowledgeable about the lowbrow tradition they were working in. Their movie satirized it, but never trashed it. It keeps an ironic distance from it. Costuming, dialogue, impossible situations. The point is, Lucas loved the serials of the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
Spielberg understood how to use it as a tool.
So each set of scenes would be like the
pinnacle moment,
of. So it's just from one peak to the next,
But like if you
radio dramas,
right? But if you compare like this movie as a whole, action-wise, to other action movies, sometimes seems more like reserved, like it.
Well, now, yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
Now it's like
now we've got John Wick,
yeah,
which is
There are also scenes where there's no dialogue. It's just Indy in like the map room. It's just the music doing the work there. And you don't get that at all in any of the Marvel movies.
Right.
Or even when he's driving the truck, there's not really dialogue. He's just fighting. There's not even like one-liners.
Right.
It's just
clean and...
Which is kind of refreshing, but it makes it more unique.
Well, I think it makes it more realistic.
Yeah.
Inside the absurdity. Maybe that's why it works for me. It's absurd what's going on.
Yeah.
But we don't have on top of that the absurdity of the one-liners from Marvel or
like let me say, if this was like James Bond, especially the older James Bond, the Nazis are on the side of the truck, runs into trees, gotta brush that off, or drives the road off the cliff, have a nice trip. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think especially with the truck scene, we see Harrison Ford's chops as an actor, because he's doing with his body and his face, he's doing all of the storytelling there.
Yeah.
So yeah, even though logically it doesn't make a lot of sense from a film standpoint, a narrative standpoint, it's pretty perfect.
Mm-hmm. Well, like even going back to the exposition thing, besides like the whole opening sequence, which is like a perfect, you just learn about Indy. He's like the coolest guy ever, but then there are a few moments where he's maybe not the cool guy, like when like he runs and jumps, grabs the root, he like smiles at himself and the root slips, like or like, I hate, there's a snake on this plane, that's just my pet Reggie. I hate snake shock. And then he's got a classroom full of girls in his archaeological class. I have a buddy who took an archaeological class in college, and he texted me, which still makes me laugh. He's like, archaeology in real life is not, and I repeat, or is nothing, and I repeat, nothing like Indiana Jones. But the pure exposition, like, let's talk about the background you need to know for the movie. The two guys come. Yeah,
the government guys.
It's hard to find a more entertaining exposition.
I wrote that
because it's natural. Yep. They like talk over each other, but because they like are like interrupting each other to tell the exposition, it doesn't even seem like exposition.
I wrote that too.
It's incredible. Plus, one of the guys who was Porkins in the first Star Wars movie. Fun fact: he's the guy who was like balding. A little bit bigger. That actor is younger than Harrison Ford.
Oh, really?
He just looks way older.
That's funny.
Yeah. And there's other moments sprinkled throughout this movie where Indy's outer shell gets like broken, or like his inner self gets revealed. And I think that's the secret sauce for Indy.
Agree. Yep, I wrote that too.
He like gets punched in the face, his knees wobble, he buckles down, you know? Yeah. He's not unstoppable like James Bond probably would have been.
Right. Yeah, so one of the issues I have with a lot of movies is the seeding, like the planting before of events that are coming later. This movie is perfect in its seeding of things that are coming later. Like what you just mentioned with the snake, but like the date thing, the monkey. So for my money, this is the perfect example of how to seed earlier in a movie events that are coming later. There's everything that happens is expected. Not expected, but like when it happens, we can be like, oh yeah, like the staff, for example, being not long enough was seeded earlier when he burned the thing into his hand and he didn't get both sides of it. That's great seeding.
It's nothing wasted basically.
Yep, I agree. If I were to think about, okay, what could we have cut out of this to make it shorter? Nothing. Not a thing.
In fact, let's add some stuff.
No, I don't want a 4.5 hour Raiders of the Lost Ark.
And just visually, this movie has some of the best silhouettes and lighting.
I wrote that too.
Walks in, you know that silhouette anyway.
Yep. Yeah, there are a couple of incontinuity issues, but
I can't lie, I love kind of the imperfection in this movie. Like, I didn't know this until I watched it in a film class here at the high school. You can see wires on Indy's back as he's climbing up a small hill at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, really?
And I think they took it out, but you used to be able to see a slight reflection in front of the
The
cobra.
snake, yeah.
I think
I was watching for it this time and I couldn't see it.
I think it's gone now, but with
That's unfortunate.
when Marion falls in, you can still see the glass. It's subtle, and you might not know it's there, but it's there. I love seeing those things, and I think it's wrong when movies go back and when movies go back and try to fix those.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You just could tell it was made by people.
Yeah.
And this is pre-computer image, like CGI and stuff. Yeah. It's all cool. Yeah.
Soundtrack. I like it's could be together with some of the music from Star Wars could be the soundtrack of my childhood.
Yeah.
Like I remember playing indie on the playground and people are like swinging from like a jump rope across the what are those, the monkey bars, dun, 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 like this. So this is a part of my soul, I think, the soundtrack.
Because, it's something different than modern day soundtracks. Because I listened to there's a podcast where a guy was talking about this movie, and he said this is before VHSs. You couldn't watch this again, but you had the soundtrack, and he was talking about just laying in his room, seeing the movie in his imagination because there was no other way to see it again. And that's like stuff we've lost, which not necessarily a bad thing, but we don't get to like live in specific detail like that anymore.
Right. I don't know that there are movies that people would say now are a part of their soul because they're just so like this. We're inundated with movies and shows and we don't have
so much more.
Right. We don't have the opportunity to let it sink in, like you were saying last episode with the credits. Like Raiders sunk in, Star Wars sunk in a way that I don't know is even possible anymore.
And it's I don't know.
Because you get done watching it, and okay, what's the next thing I'm gonna watch?
Yeah, even Netflix, when you're trying to enjoy the credits,
they're like,
it's like,
did you like this?
Watch a trailer for something you don't want to watch.
And so we don't like when I watched it, we had to drive across town, rent the VHS, bring it home, watch it. There wasn't anything else to watch. I mean, we're done for the night. Good job.
You gotta hit the rewind button.
Yeah, you rewind the thing.
Send it back.
And so I think, I don't know that it's bad, but I think that there aren't going to be again Indiana Jones or Star Wars.
You're right. Movie rental stores or even getting VHSs from the library or whatever. Like, I want to get this one again.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Or do we allow... Will there even be nostalgia, I suppose?
Right, that's because you kept bringing that up, and I think Martin Harris on one of the episodes wanted to know what your generation was going to be nostalgic for from the sequels. And like, I don't know that there is anything to be nostalgic for.
Yeah.
I think the appreciation of film has fundamentally been altered permanently by streaming.
Yeah, try showing a group of high school students any movie that came out before they were born. And they're like, this is old and dumb. Yeah. It's like, no.
Yeah.
It's good.
So it's,
not even that old. Like, we were watching Gladiator, and they're like, this is old.
Are you kidding?
Well, I had some kids say, Gladiator 2 is better than this one. It's like, no. What are you talking about?
That's sad.
But there's something to be said, like, with streaming. Like, say, Stranger Things, which is a huge culture phenomenon type of thing. But last season's like, here's all the episodes right now, and people watch it in one night and, like, then move on. It's like, you need time to let things ruminate. I don't know.
Yeah, so, I don't know.
Like,
I think we're altered.
I have a couple questions for you.
All right.
Indy, famously afraid of snakes.
Yep.
How are your thoughts on snakes?
I'm not afraid of them.
What are you afraid of? That's my real question.
Clowns.
Clowns?
I don't know. What am I afraid of? I'm afraid of losing my family.
Yeah, that's like the real answer. I also think that about...
So for me, my favorite genre is horror.
Yeah. Oh, you've been desensitized.
Yeah, I've seen probably thousands of horror movies at this point.
Yeah.
And so there's not much that I'm afraid of because I know it's all fake.
That's fair.
I'm afraid of failing as a teacher, as a father, as a husband.
Yeah.
But nothing like snakes. Nothing tangible, I don't think.
Besides clowns.
And that's kind of facetious. I'm
Yeah.
not actually.
How
But
often
if a
do you-
clown popped out of my drain in my house, I would probably have a heart
I
attack.
should tell your students next year. Dietz is afraid of clowns.
I'm not.
Work with that.
I'm not really that. Yeah. Nothing tangible. What about you?
Yeah, I don't have anything either. Actually, I just saw a snake yesterday, like a little garter snake. It was... Actually,
No.
my 3-year-old pointed it out. It's like, is that a snake? It's like, yeah. Don't
There
touch
is,
it.
There it is. Well, but like I guess I'm not afraid of snakes unless they have a diamond-shaped head, which is an interesting thing about this movie, that none of those snakes are actually poisonous snakes with the exception of the cobra.
Yeah, actually, some of those snakes aren't even snakes. They talked about it in that book, how they needed more snakes because the fake snakes didn't look good. But what I meant is even something else. There is a lizard that technically doesn't have limbs.
Oh, really?
And it's technically a lizard.
Oh.
And those are also in there, too.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a thing. I mean, I feel like I'd be terrified of the ocean.
Really?
Yeah, the ocean's
I
so
love the
big
ocean.
and deep and scary, and I don't love spiders, but I'm the designated spider killer, that type of thing.
I don't kill them.
Oh, man,
I take them outside.
I had to go underneath my house to fix something,
That would be.
and there were hobos everywhere and other stuff. And my father-in-law, he's like, don't worry about them. Like, you don't have to be worried about them. I was like, I don't know, I'm the one in here. And they're all over the place, so I think I'm not too crazy about them at the moment.
Yeah, that would be a little much.
Yeah, not pleasant. My other question for you, Dietz, what should happen with artifacts? Like, you find something, like a golden idol in a tomb. What should be done with that golden idol? Should it be taken to a museum? Should you take it to
My house?
your house?
Yeah.
Take it to the country where you took it from, or what? What's the ethical thing that
Oh.
should happen?
Ethically?
Yeah, not you.
Oh, ethics.
What would you do? Or ethically?
Or you.
Or you. Whichever one.
I would. I would think it belongs to the place where it is found.
Yeah?
So in this case, it should. Well, I don't know, because the Egyptians stole it from the Jewish nation. So
Yeah, the Ark. Who?
I don't know.
But
I love Egypt and Egyptology, and there's a lot of cultural. It's not appropriation, like the outright theft of the Egyptian culture.
Yeah.
Most of the artifacts that we have from the ancient Egyptian culture aren't in Egypt anymore.
Right.
And I don't, So I would say ethically that is wrong.
But like the great, like the British Museum,
Right.
Artifacts from all over the planet.
Right.
Like there's even like there's that one British comedian who talks about it. And he's like, a long time ago, but not so much longer as you think it might be. We went around and got everything.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and all the countries asked, hey, can we get that stuff back? And we just say no.
Yeah.
So, but I wonder, is the counter argument now that it is places, like people can see them now?
Well,
and
if
appreciate
you go to
it?
Great Britain, you can.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
fair.
I don't know. I think the whole you're doing post-colonial, so
We'll talk about a few things.
The whole idea of colonization, I think, is wrong. It's ethically, morally wrong. So I guess my answer would be it belongs to the people in the place where it was found.
I think I agree. I think I would hope, because museums, they have traveling exhibits.
Right.
If it's like, oh, I won't be able to make it to Inca, but maybe Inca exhibit will travel to a museum that you could go visit.
Yeah.
As opposed to being taken and never returned type of thing.
Yeah. Especially with Egypt, there's a lot of not good stuff. Colonization is not good. Anyhow,
but like Egypt's, I think, is like a big stepping stone for a lot of young kids getting into
Yeah. Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like history or mythology. It's
Right.
like
But it doesn't
all-
require the removal of the artifacts from Egypt.
You're right. And actually, the movie I was just talking about, Fountain of Youth, they literally go to like the pyramids because
Yeah.
then they like have to break down a wall and they're like, the one guy's like, let's destroy this thing because we got to get through it. So it's not dissimilar to Indiana Jones, but it's interesting that it's a lot newer and
Right.
still having a
We're
bunch
still
of
destroying history.
yeah, stuff like that, we'll say.
Yeah.
Okay, going back to Steven Spielberg and his style, he has a lot of long takes. But they're not in your face long takes. He just knows he can put multiple different types of shots in one camera take. So, for example, like when what's the guy who owns the museum, Brody? Yeah, when he comes into his house, the camera follows them in the hall into the living room, and then Indy's over here packing. Then Brody talking there, a close up of the gun. Like it's all in one take. We got medium shots, we got close ups, and you don't realize it because it just flows.
Yeah.
Spielberg is unmatched when it comes to stuff
Yeah.
like that, and it's so cool.
It is.
And in this movie, you have like the fight in it with on the airplane, around the airplane. Dramatic action. It's boring if it always works out for your hero.
Right.
Definitely said this, but because it came from, of all people, the South Park guys, where it's like in between your story, if you have the words "and then," it's boring. But if you have "but then,"
Right.
it's interesting. So we have a fight, but a big guy comes to fight. Oh, he's fighting. And then Marion's going to knock out the guy with the gun. But then the plane starts swiveling around.
Yeah.
Oh, but then the oil leaks.
Right.
But then the fire goes. But then she's locked inside. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I love how Indy always has to fight one giant guy in all of these movies. But there's that incredible shot where they're trying to get the door open and the plane is spinning and the fire, you see it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like that's why stuff like that, it's not just that there's action, it's the action is incredible.
Yeah. And I think that's what ultimately allows me to excuse
Yeah.
the because it's art.
Yeah.
It's not, at some point it ceases to be storytelling and is elevated to art. And like that scene, yeah, if you look at that scene, you could say and then, but the way that it's shot and the way that the acting is done, it's just this fluid, like natural progression of events where if other people had shot that and put that together, it might be, oh, okay, now they're going to throw in this and this. So, yeah, I agree. The way that he uses the camera, is probably unmatched. So good.
Let's see here. When I was a kid, Belloc, the villain, he was, I don't know, just a bad guy, whatever.
Right.
But now, when you're older, you're able to appreciate him a lot more. Because he's Indy's foil. Because he's not a Nazi. He's a French archaeologist. And Indy's like, you're working with the Nazis. Like, well, if that's what it takes, that's what you got to do. So I guess another ethical question is to do something you believe in. Because his religion is history.
Right.
He worships archaeology.
Right.
It's important to him. Should you be allowed to use something wrong to do something you believe in? Or
is it okay to do something evil for good?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in this case, the bigger question is, do we need archaeology? Like, are the ends valuable in and of themselves?
Yeah.
We would have to evaluate that before we could say, oh yes, then the end's justifying. In this case, the finding of the Ark, what is the significance of that? Well, from the end of this movie, none. There is no significance. It ends up in a box in a massive warehouse. No. In which case, if that's true, then no, the ends did not justify the means.
I know, but
if
that ending is so
I love
brilliant.
I love the end of this movie. But if that had been found and used for the purpose it was intended to be used for, and we're all now speaking German, the answer would be yes.
Yeah.
The ends did justify the means because our entire society is based on them finding that. So,
because I think, I mean, it's kind of comes down to why history is important.
right.
Arguably, and we've talked about things like this, being present right now is the most important for us. But we need to know history, got to respect history, understand history. But if it came down to working with Nazis to do something or versus not doing it so they don't ever get it, and then not getting that part of history to have, that's,
Yeah.
because he calls Indy's bluff at the end.
Right.
He's like, I'll destroy it.
Yeah.
And like,
Blow it
no,
up.
you won't, because I know you.
Yeah.
And
But go
sorry,
ahead.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, we can move that question into anyone's actual real life.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like in our case, we have to accept a lesser evil in order to do what so we have a canned curriculum that we're kind of involuntarily.
Yeah, we have a curriculum, but if that's all you did every single day, the
Right.
students would check out.
Right. And so that is the accepting or working with that curriculum.
Yeah, that's good.
Could be viewed as, okay, this is an quote unquote evil. For me, it is anyway.
The
Because,
curriculum.
because
Yeah.
I'm very much, I know my skill set. I know what is valuable for these kids. This is what I want to teach, not this other. So I could say, no, I'm not doing that at all. I get fired. What's the result of that? I no longer have the ability to do what I feel is valuable.
Yeah.
And so in everyone's sphere, there's probably that question is open. How much do I allow the quote unquote evil or the wrong or whatever to be a part of what I'm doing? Another way to ask the same question would be, is it possible to have a completely pure experience, completely untainted by the bad means justifying the end experience? And I don't know. I think at this point in a fallen world, I don't think there are pure experiences that can be had. I wouldn't say evil, just like things that we don't agree with.
Yeah.
We could go like that. So I don't agree with the idea that someone else should tell me what I should teach in my class. However, in order to continue teaching in the system that we're in, I have to allow that to a certain extent. And so in the case of raiders and working with the Nazis, if Belloc that was the only way he could see to get this thing done, I guess that's what had to happen.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't condemn Belloc. Maybe that's all he had.
A Nazi at one point implies that Belloc has like a dark past, or maybe he's violent or something.
Yeah.
But I think he's way more interesting than he is compared to other villains, because he's not really a villain.
Right.
He just
wants to find history.
Yeah.
I mean, if we think about it, the way that he did it is the only way it could have been done. Like, Indiana Jones would never have been able to find the Ark on his own without all of the work that had been done by the massive Nazi regime.
Yeah.
He never would have found it. It never would have been found. And so we have I guess it's an open question. Does the finding of the Ark, or, the metaphorical finding of the Ark in our lives, does it matter how we find it? Because if we don't use the means at our disposal, we won't find it. I don't know. I don't actually believe that, but if we're looking at it through the standpoint of raiders, I guess he had to work with the Nazis.
Yeah.
Or it never would have been found.
That's true.
But I personally, in my life, do not believe that. I believe that we should work within what we consider to be right and righteous to accomplish our goals. So
I agree with you. That's kind of what I would answer if I was going to answer that. I got a couple fun facts.
I got a couple of things I love.
Well, let's go over things you love.
So for a long, long time in my childhood, I don't even know, does he even have a name? Like the German guy that dresses all in black and
I don't know, but
he was the gold standard for bad guys in my youth.
Yeah. I'll tell you everything. Yes,
you will.
I know you would. Plus, he looks evil because he's like
just
slimy or whatever.
Yeah, everything about him
What is his
so
name?
so well done.
Toht? T-O-H-T? I don't know.
Okay. Even to the point that he pulls out the hanger.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! I like the. It's evil. It's an evil hanger. Like, I don't know. So
it's such a good joke, though. It's like, what is this? Oh no,
Yeah.
what's he gonna do?
Oh, it's a hanger. Yeah.
So there's a fun shot where the car pulls in after the truck chase, or whatever. That actor, for whatever reason, couldn't be there. Because there's clearly just like a hat on a stick.
Oh, really?
It's so funny because it's clearly not a person even. Because Belloc stands up, looks around, but if you look at that guy, he's not. It's just not even a person, which is so funny.
But like his just complete disregard for any human emotion, nothing. Like he is like, I don't even know that there have been a bad guy like him.
Yeah.
That just he's just evil. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I remember.
Plus, he gets a satisfying ending too.
Right. Which is interesting. All three of them died differently, right?
Yeah, like
Belloc,
similar, but
and the main Nazi guy in him. Yeah.
Yeah, his face kind of shrinks. Belloc just explodes.
And he melts.
But this guy melts.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So the climax of this movie, I wrote greatest climax scene ever. I don't know if that's true or not, but like from the moment they take that lid off until Indy opens his eyes is just magic. Even, this is 40 years old? It's still, I mean, the melting of the faces looks a little dated, but everything else looks magnificent. Like the lightning things shooting through all the guys, and the filming guy, it comes out his eyeballs, and everything. Like I can't think of a comparable climax scene. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, there's some creepy imagery. I remember like the face turning evil.
Yeah,
used to freak me out.
Oh yeah,
as a kid.
That whole I had nightmares of that scene as a kid. Absolutely. There's some great lines like, you want to talk to God? Let's go see him together. I've got nothing better to do. And then Belloc, when he calls Indy's bluff, we are only passing through history, but this is history.
Yeah.
Great lines.
Or there's like it ain't the years, it's the miles.
It's the
mileage. Which I feel like the older you get is more true.
Yeah, oh yeah. Like we just got back from a family reunion, and my son and I, we push each other to work out and be healthy and whatever. He finally convinces me to have an arm wrestle, and so we got started, and I started feeling things popping in my shoulder and my elbow, and he won.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, you just let me win." I'm like, yep, I did. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna have surgery so I can give you a good. Yeah, so it is the mileage, not necessarily the years, for sure. Yeah.
I have a couple fun facts.
Okay, fun facts.
There is a scene right after the drinking challenge,
right,
which is also great exposition. Who's this woman? Well, she can hold her own,
right? For sure, yeah. Except for she can't.
I know.
Through the whole flipping movie. That was one of the cons, but I wasn't going to bring it up.
Yeah. There's this part where she's holding. It's funny because you don't think about it, but she's holding stuff to her temples, and then she slams it down. Glass shatter sounds.
Yeah.
She's holding snow.
Oh, really?
It cut out a little thing where she's holding snow because of a headache, obviously. But they added the glass sequence because it doesn't make sense without it. Because, what is she holding? It doesn't.
She must be throwing shot glasses.
Yeah. Oh. But it was snow. There's a part when they're in, Cairo, they literally went and took all the satellites off the rooftops.
Oh, really?
Like, manually, to, like, make it look like old Egypt.
Oh, wow.
But then, after Indy thinks Marion has died, he's drinking. There's totally a guy wearing a modern-day T-shirt and jeans that walks
really?
by. So it's like, they do all this work for these shots, but then a guy still sneaks by, which is funny.
Well.
Once again, I like those imperfections.
Yeah.
And the last little thing, the punching sound effect. Clearly is such a sound effect.
Right.
But it doesn't work without it.
Right. Yeah.
I love it. It's almost that is nostalgic.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Punching sound.
Yeah. And we've never addressed this, but we've watched enough movies. The Wilhelm scream.
Right.
Before the internet ever told us about the Wilhelm scream, me and my brothers clocked in on that. It's like, why is this scream in all the Star Wars movies? It's all in all the Indiana Jones movies. But, it comes from an old movie where the guy who did it is Wilhelm, like his name. That's why it's called the Wilhelm scream. But it was just kind of like an inside joke between directors, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and now it's a joke that exists beyond that now, obviously. Yeah. But it's in all of these. It's fun.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, philosophy.
Well, we kind of hinted at it earlier, but one of the big questions in philosophy is how should we deal with impermanence? And like, we're going to die. Everything that we've ever interacted with is going to be dust at some point. How do we deal with that? And I think, so Indiana Jones, this movie, Raiders, offers a number of answers to this. So the lives of certain groups of people are worth more than the lives of other certain groups of people. So like, from the opening sequence, the lives of guides are worth less than the lives of the explorers. The lives of the diggers are worth less than the lives of the soldiers. The soldiers are worth less than the lives of the... And so we have this tiered system. And one of the reasons why Indiana Jones works so well is he kind of breaks that tiered system, because at various points he plays all of those levels.
That he uses a disguise,
right,
and then a Nazi disguise. Right. Okay, yeah.
And so he is at some points in this the everyman. He is at some points in this the explorer funding. He is the leader of the group at some points and whatever. And so just that open question: why is the life of Belloc worth more than the life of the German soldier, which is worth more than the life of the Egyptian digger, which is worth more? Like, why is that? I have already addressed that on this podcast, but just listener, as you interact with your world, why is your life in your mind worth more than the checker at Walmart? We don't even, generally speaking, acknowledge that's a human being.
We're like the Michael Douglas character from last week's episode,
absolutely.
The Game.
Or the waiter, or the waitress, or the cook that made your food, or whatever. And so here's just, again, this is my drum beat. The only way that we don't end up devaluing all life is if we start recognizing, that waitress that just served you your thing, that's a person. That person has a family. They have blah, 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 blah. It's not just an automated delivery system for your food. And so in Indiana Jones, the lives of the soldiers are expendable. Yeah. The lives of the diggers are expendable. It doesn't matter. And I think we see that more, if I remember right, in the Temple of Doom than we see it here.
Oh, yeah. There's some stuff in there which is unfortunate in Temple of Doom.
Right. I don't know what the body count is for Indiana Jones, but it's got to be in the dozens.
I bet you could find out. Google it really quick.
And so you could also argue that how we deal or should deal with impermanence, this movie says, is you fight tooth and nail to prolong your life as long as it can be prolonged, which is essentially what Indiana Jones is doing.
Okay, according to this app I just found, in this movie he kills 11 people.
Oh, that's a lot less than I thought it would be.
Well, I mean,
I guess it depends on how many of the people on the truck die.
Yeah, some of them just kind of roll off.
Because there's way more than 11 people in that scene.
Because people get shot, and sometimes other people shoot them, like the opening, like the bar scene that's on fire. Marion kills a couple of them, I think. Yeah. Anyway, but apparently, according to this one, 11.
Yeah. So, Raiders of the Lost Ark offers us both sides, which I think is common in great movies. It doesn't answer the question of how should we deal with impermanence. It offers us a number of options, and lets us decide. So we have Sala. He's a semi-poor digger guy. How does he deal with it? He deals with it by being with his family and loving his kids and taking care of his family. Indiana Jones, how does he deal with it? He's always hunting the next big find, the next big thing. Marion, how did she deal with it? Well, she became kind of bitter and angry, and she just hunkered down where she was and did the best that she could. Belloc, how does he deal with it? Betrayal, backstabbing, and whatever. The Germans, I mean, we could go on and on and on, but the movie provides us with this smorgasbord of answers to how do you deal with impermanence, and then the ultimate answer is history itself, right? And so history itself deals with impermanence by just being, by existing, by hiding portions of itself. And it recognizes the flow of time. It's going to continue on, and whether or not we know where the Ark is or this golden idol is doesn't ultimately matter in the flow of history. And so the flow of history just flows, and it just is. It doesn't fight, it just is. History is going to continue. We can try to manipulate it, we can try to change it, we can try to get involved with it, but ultimately the river moves on. And you know, the Ark ends up in a box and in a warehouse somewhere in the United States.
It was maybe the Ark was
history flows.
The friends we made along the way.
Yeah, sure.
I wonder though, because you brought up some interesting points, but like the people around us, or how much are we, or should we interact with everyone?
Right.
Because I don't know, teachers, we talk all day every day as our job.
Sure.
But sometimes I don't want to make small talk with people I don't really know.
Right. But I don't know that dealing with impermanence requires that.
Oh, I see.
But I do, I guess my answer to this, and the answer that we come back to on this podcast, is we have to recognize ourselves and other people.
Yeah. Okay.
Just treat people like people.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at.
You actually were stepping on some of my toes for post-colonialism, because some of our ideas are just overlapping.
Right.
Because Marion, to like the movie's credit, is supposed to be like, you know, not a damsel in distress, even though she turns into one. Because that opening scene is like, no, she can handle her own.
Right.
She's Indy's partner. And then after that, it's she becomes a prize to win.
Right.
Just like the Ark, which is, you know.
I mean, I haven't ever been in a basket on the shoulder of two people, but I can't imagine it's too difficult to tip that basket over on your own and
she's just yelling for help for a lot of that, which is, I guess, maybe unfortunate, but she's
literally the only female character, I think.
Yeah. With
the exception, I guess, of Sala's wife is the only other one.
Yeah. Temple of Doom is worse at this, though.
Oh, wow.
Wait till you see.
Okay.
Okay, but post-colonial lens. Let's see. Post-colonial theory examines how colonial ideologies, power structures, and cultural hierarchies are reproduced, challenged, or reimagined in cultural texts. Meaning, when a thing that happened in the past, how do we now look at it with our vantage point of being a different culture?
Right.
Like, who were the victors here? Who had the control? Who had the authority? Yada, yada, yada. Because you're right. I found, like, the locals are basically used as a backdrop in this movie. No one has a single line besides Sala. The Indiana Jones is obviously a white man from the United States.
Right.
Goes to exotic locations and takes their artifacts.
Yeah.
That's his goal. But You can look at this as, you know what the white savior trope is? A white person comes in and saves the day.
Saves the people from themselves.
Yeah. It's kind of like that too. Like, even there's this iconic shot of Indiana silhouetted between the sunset. He's putting his hat on.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous shot. He's standing over people working for him, that all these Egyptians.
Yep.
We even talked about, like, even with the Nazis. The Nazis are obviously the bad guys, but both sides employ similar extraction logic. So Indy's doing the same thing the Nazis did to get the Ark, using the locals. None of the locals obviously will get this reward, or the people digging for Indy, I don't think they're going to get paid even, or whatever. So it's like, what is the movie kind of saying unintentionally? That's kind of what the post-colonial lens is looking at. And like, agency denied. The people who actually live in those lands rarely have any say in what happens to them. So they are being colonized. The movie is colonizing the people. I mean, Spielberg did not have any of that in mind when he was making this movie. He's thinking, let's look at like hundreds of actors in these shots. It looks impressive. He's not trying to say this or that, but unintentionally with the lens, it's saying a lot of things.
Yeah, and I think that's a big piece of what the post-colonial lens is for, is to help us see those things that are, like you said, Spielberg didn't intentionally do that, but the fact that he did it suggests that he's been programmed with this colonial mentality, that these people are backdrops, these people are valuable as actors or whatever.
Indy could be a stand-in for Western civilization. You know? Sometimes it's easy to be, you see someone with a radical take, like, oh, movies from the past, problematic, and something, all right, whatever. But if you look at it, just shift a little more academically. It's like, well, now what can we learn about that? That's what we're trying to do here on this podcast. We're not trying to boo-hoo the 80s and what they didn't care about versus what we care about in the 2020s.
Right.
But what
do we see?
What can be seen? And also, critical thinking allows you, what you are saying, to see it as a movie, to see what multiple different lenses and different ways, interpretations. Because post-colonial, it is a little bit problematic.
A lot.
A lot. But that doesn't mean you don't have to hate it or not watch it ever again.
Right. But you can watch it critically. Recognize what's going on and recognize where it came from and what it represents. What it reveals to us about where we were.
The movie's good.
Yep.
Even if you can't see it the same way.
Well, I mean, like I said at the very beginning, like even the flaws that I see are generic. They're genre. There's genre flaws because this film exists as an action film. There are certain things that it has to have and has to do. It has to have a lot of action. It has to have, explosions and bullets and death and whatever. And so, especially now knowing that this was early, like Spielberg was young making this, he's not at a position to be pushing on tropes, to be questioning and demanding like he does later with Saving Private Ryan. That is an action film also, but it pushes on a lot of like what I brought up with Raiders, like the value of life and death and war and ideologies. So Saving Private Ryan, I don't want to use the word corrects, but like does non-generically kind of what this movie had to fall into and fit into in order to be what it was in the 80s. I love Raiders. I still love Raiders, even after looking at it critically, philosophically, through the lenses of post-colonialism. I think it's still one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's hard to deny. I have a poster of this in my classroom. It's one of the best to ever do it.
So much a part of me that, which I think is a really interesting place to kind of, I guess, end this episode is it okay to love something that is deeply flawed just because?
Yeah.
And I think, I think so as well. Like, Birdemic. I love Birdemic.
You love Birdemic.
I do. Obviously, it's flawed at every single
single frame of the movie.
Single frame. But it just brings me so much joy. Is that okay? Yeah, I think it's okay as long as we're recognizing, okay, I love it with its flaws.
Yeah.
Not that this is unflawed.
Yeah, I say I see the reflecting glass, I see the wires on Indy. I love that stuff. Those are not detractors,
but I'm not even just the flaws in the filming, like the logical flaws, the philosophical flaws, the ethical flaws. I think as long as we are critical in recognizing, yes, these things are here, this is still beautiful. Yeah. Or I still love this.
It's kind of like life in a way.
Yeah, it is a lot
there
like life.
There you go.
It is a lot like life. So we can continue to be critical.
Yes.
And perhaps if we love something, that's a flag that we should be especially critical.
You know what? That's, if anything, if you love something, you should be more critical of it. Yeah. And hopefully still love it.
Yep.
But I think that's a good stance.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Temple of Doom next week because you've only seen it once. It'll be like the first watch.
Yeah, but I remember enough of it that I'm not that excited to watch it. So.
And then we'll do Last Crusade, do a Deet's Choice, and then the two Legacy sequels.
Garbagey ones.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see, I guess.
Yeah. You'll see.
Aliens showing up.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Yeah. We love you.
We do love you. Thanks for listening.
Think critically.
Please.
Bye.